Okay, thank you, Mrs. Silverberg. Okay, well, why don't you put your hands together and welcome Sven and Brady. Gentlemen, it's very good to have you back with us. And the only thing I would ask is we're recording and streaming for folks that aren't able still to be here. So just stand in the middle. You can be up here if you want. It's okay. But anywhere in the middle is good. And microphone here. Let me just hand you this one. Okay. Welcome, Sven and Brady.
Thank you.
Lutheran Child and
Wow.
Family Services. There you go.
Thank you. And thank you, Linda. I don't know if some of you know, but Linda and I worked more than 35 years ago. When I first came from Germany to the United States, we worked at an agency together that is taking care of people. And it was wonderful a few years ago, to rediscover her membership here. And so thanks everything that you do. And I'm going out on some thin ice here. Brady, you back me up, because I didn't even talk to Brady about it, but I like this gospel text and very much. And there's one thing that I especially enjoy as being a son and having a son. This is my beloved son with whom I'm well pleased. And I take a little different spin than Pastor on this, but I tell you, there are sadly so many children out there and so many boys out there that never hear that from their dads, ever. Do you know, this is my beloved son with whom I am well pleased. And that's part of the big challenge we have out there in our communities, that there are so many young people growing up without families. And of course, that's why we have been around as Lutheran Child and Family Services since 1883, to somehow work that thing out. It's not easy, has never been easy, but it's something that we are doing. And we especially see challenges with young men and boys that we serve for such a long time. So I want to tell you a little bit about our news program. Linda already talked a little bit about this Pando, and Pando is Aspen Grove, Pando Aspen Grove. It's not because we cannot say panda. It's not like, oh, is that the cute animal from China? No, it's not about that. It's something about very exciting. It's the largest living organism of aspen trees that are out, I think, in New Mexico, Arizona, and they're all interconnected, thousands of trees on their roots. And we thought this would be a great symbol or metaphor for what we want to be for young people that are leaving the child welfare system with 18, 19, 20 years old. And many of them have no families, so they have very little resources, emotional resources especially, family resources. And many of them sadly find themselves being homeless in a very, very short period of time, sometimes even after leaving our services. And we have had some examples over this for many years, especially young people coming out of our Trinity House. That's a home for 10 young men, up to 10 young men that we work with independent living skills, and we are trying to teach all of these things that parents are teaching in general, but these kids don't have families. And so we are teaching, and our staff are the ones that go to the high school graduation, and our staff are the ones that set up driver's education and all of these kind of things. Do you know that until somewhat recently, young people in the child welfare system couldn't take driver's ed and couldn't have a driver's license? Linda, did you know that? Because it was just changed. And of course, when I think about driving, especially in Indianapolis, if you're not driving, you're not going far. Maybe up here in Zionsville, but I tell you, where we live, there's nothing. And so it was a very important change some years ago. And then some of our friends chipped in and said, we pay for that driver's ed. And it's one of the marvelous little things where you think about, do you know, how can young people get independent? One of those things is driver's license, but there are so many others. And so we were very motivated to think about what else can be done there after they are 18, 19, 20 years old, leaving the system, leaving us or leaving other agencies, maybe find themselves relatively quickly into homelessness. So we built this project here. Here's the picture. It's a brand new building. It's 30 apartments with one-bedroom apartments that were built, and we were able to finance this project through federal tax credits and a major grant from the Indiana Housing and Economic Development Corporation. Here's a kitchen in one of the little apartments. Do you want to? I think we have a few more pictures. Okay, right. Right. But that's the kitchen. So everything is basically set up, and we have sometimes young people that just come with a backpack on their back, and they come to us. And so of course we have pots and pans. And the other day I was on a tour through all the apartments. Every couple of months our staff kind of checks in and making sure. And it was surprisingly most of the young people did pretty well with their apartments. But it looks like there's a lot of food that you can finish in a pan that they are eating. You know, I mean, nothing sophisticated. And so it's just one of the things that we are trying to engage to around cooking, around housekeeping, around finding a job, keeping a job, and so on. So this is kind of a little day area that we have where we do little programs. And we are it's a very nice thing that we have this where young people can come together and have a little bit of a sense of community. And so I think that's important for that group too, because many of them are isolated. Many of them are suffering of some kind of mental health issues that are at times pretty serious. And so it's a wonderful program. So we have 30 apartments, 29 are already rented out. And 2 of them are with small families with a baby in there. So you can see there's a diverse need for that program. So this is especially a prayer request because we are really sticking our neck out with this program because it's unlike our other programs. If you, and Brady will tell us a little bit about it later, at Lutherwood, if you come to the children's home at Lutherwood, you're coming there by a court order, and the judge and the Office of Family and Children, they will make sure that you are working on your issues, you know? So there is quite some oversight there. This here is a new evidence-based practice, and it's called Housing First. And what people have found out over the years, if you really want to have people get off the streets, do you know? You need to first take care of their housing needs. Many times, housing is connected with some other prerequisite. First, you have to do this. You have to do that. And then this, and then I'm just thinking as a social worker talking to somebody who is homeless, and I'm laying out all these plans that you have to do before you come in. You're maybe thinking, this is great talk, but where am I staying tonight? So this model is basically setting this whole thing upside down and says, you are first housed, housing first, and then we are looking at all of the different issues. So our young people that live there, they don't have to engage with a social worker. The good news is that most of them do. And it was really interesting the other day when I took this tour that our staff who was on that tour, how engaged and how well they knew already all the clients. The program is just open for 6 months, about 7 months. And so it was a very good sign, but it's interesting. You might check it out later on. Housing First. Sounds like very much New Testament to me. Do you know? We house you first, and then all the other questions and all the other things are later. Now, of course, that causes some challenges and so on, but we will stay positive here this morning. So, okay. Yeah, we have a little pantry there. We're kind of food is of course an issue. We're not in a food desert over there at where Lutheran Child and Family Services is. And some of you might wonder where it is. It's on the east side of Indianapolis, across the street from Community East Hospital. So it's 1500 and Ritter Avenue. And it's a beautiful campus that we have been there since the 1950s. But especially this program has a little pantry and folks can come in and get some food. It is for us really an engagement opportunity. If somebody comes, the staff has a possibility to talk and we can give something that's more than a pat on the back and kind of saying, oh, you're doing great or whatever, And so that's, I think, what we do there. And I think that's where some of the support too from our churches come from, because you might wonder where that food is coming. Now we have a large food pantry called Sharing Place, so we can sometimes take some of the food from there that we get from gleaners over there too. So, okay, that's, I want to introduce Brady to you. Brady is, he's our Director of Christian Education. We have worked very closely for 8 years. And he has just received a marvelous call. I heard Pastor talking about calls earlier to his home church, Zion, to be their new Director of Christian Education. And so let's put Brady in your prayers. I think it will work fine because they know each other for a long time, so it's not a surprise job or something. But Brady, tell us a little bit about SEED, especially your program, and maybe a little bit more about Lutherwood. Sure.
Good morning. Yeah, as Sven said, my last day at LCFS will actually be February 22nd. I'm going to be taking a call at Zion Lutheran in New Palestine, so just on the opposite corner of the clock from you guys here. It's actually a lot closer to my house. Like I get to maybe walk to work some days if the weather is okay. Not today. I would not have walked to work today. As Sven was alluding to, Lutheran Child and Family Services, I think, I don't have the date in my mind quite exactly right, but the anniversary for LCFS is sort of beginning was actually a few days ago. It's either February 3rd or 4th in 1883 that two churches got together to start LCFS. It wasn't called LCFS then. It had some German name of which Sven, of course, could speak. Sven, what was the original German name? There we go. So we'll just go with LCFS. So actually started, again, February 3rd or 4th, I forget the exact date, 1883, two Lutheran churches, shockingly, right? St. Paul's Lutheran, which is now on the south side at Southport and Gray, and Trinity Lutheran, which is now at 16th and Post. But they were both at the time, downtown Indianapolis, got together to start an orphanage for the children in the kind of the Indiana area and the kind of the Midwest as well. So kind of thank you for having a big birthday party for LCFS today. That was really kind of you guys. I really appreciate you guys giving up a little bit of time and resources for that. So one of the things that's kind of happened at LCFS over the 9 years now, I suppose, the services kind of in the way that they're delivered has certainly changed. They are, we go from being an orphanage to now a treatment center to providing housing for young adults to a food pantry, right? Services kind of up and down all over the map. But one thing that hasn't changed is our commitment to the gospel, our intentionality of sharing Jesus with children that we serve, or young adults that we serve, or the staff that we serve. So none of that has changed. Again, that too may take on different shapes and forms, but it has remained constant throughout our 130 plus years. One of the things I want to sort of share with you today a little bit is to kind of take you kind of into a little peek of our chapel. The chapel is kind of a newer space, not new since I've been there, but new in the 100 plus years because we've moved at least once, to help you kind of see, not that that's the only place that the gospel is shared, right? We heard the gospel this morning very clearly and very well in the church, but now we know that things happen in classrooms, they happen in here and so forth. But I want to take you inside of our chapel. I was in the sanctuary this morning, and I was admiring your stained glass, and I appreciate it. I'm a little biased. I feel like ours is pretty nice at LCFS. It's new, so I wanted to give you kind of a taste of that. Maybe you've seen it in other pictures. So let me give you a quick kind of couple of pictures here that might help you see that there. This image here is exactly what anybody that walks into the chapel, it is the first thing that you see. We did that sort of intentionally because we wanted anybody that came into the chapel to know, oh, I'm in the chapel. This is where we meet Jesus. I remember when the stained glass windows were installed 3 years ago now, a little girl came around the corner and hadn't seen them yet because they were being installed over the weekend. I had tape up all over the windows so that nobody would go in and mess with stuff. And a little girl walked around the corner, and she saw this image of Jesus, and she just went. It really, you could tell it almost like took her breath away, which I don't want her to stop breathing, of course, but I wanted her to be captured in that image of Jesus. And so we have these, before the windows were in, they were just clear windows with nothing in them. You could see outside to the natural world. But we thought what a beautiful opportunity to really take that space and to transform it so that we could, again, tell the story of Jesus. This is this window on the left, the Nativity window in the corner there. That's the left side of the Jesus. So that long strip of windows tells the story of Jesus' life, right? So from his birth to his death and then to his resurrection as well. So you can kind of figure that out there. And then we got a couple more here. You can kind of see the one in the corner on the left side of this screen here of Jonah and the fish, and then Daniel and the lion's den is right above it. And I got a few more here to show you. And you can see here a few more stories, Moses, Ruth. You can't really see Rahab, but Rahab is in there up in the top between Moses and Ruth. And you've got David there with the sling. And you can see Daniel a little bit more there too. And I don't know that I get the other one here. Yeah, and then you can see on this one here, you can see obviously Joseph and then Egypt and so forth. So a lot of images. We specifically had these windows built or designed in a way that would, so that children could visually look at it and quickly figure it out, especially if they knew some generic concepts of the Bible, right? And so the windows were, I actually brought children in a few years prior, and I said, tell me what Bible stories you know. Well, I want to teach them more Bible stories, but I also wanted them to be able to walk in and to see, like, I know who that guy is. I know who that person is. But then I also wanted them to sort of be able to look at it and go, oh, wait, who's that? And then, to kind of be able to have that little bit of question to say, I want to learn more about that one. The one you can't see that's up to the left of Joseph is Adam and Eve. And I'll give you a little quick tip on the windows, and I really would. I'm gonna invite Sven to do more work since I'm leaving. I really want you to see these, kind of think like, man, those look kind of interesting. Like I should go visually see them in person. I should go absorb them in person. You'll get to call Sven, and Sven will take you on a tour and tell you more about it. I won't be there likely unless you come in the next 2 weeks. And I'm happy to do it if you come. If you want to come tomorrow, come tomorrow. I'm happy to do it. But one of the things I want you to see, though, is you can't see it here, and I'm sorry I didn't have the right picture. Adam and Eve are turned away from everybody else because of their sin, right? They realize their sin. But then we know that that's not all of our lives, that we don't always turn away. We have hope in Christ. And so all of the rest of the characters, you can kind of see they're looking up, they're looking forward, they're looking hopeful. And the goal was to then have them look to, let me see if I can go back and do this now. You can see, oh, not that one. You can see there, they're looking toward that corner window where we encounter the Messiah, the baby Jesus. And then you see the life there. So we had some really intentionality in these windows. Now, the windows are fantastic. They're lovely. Again, I'm biased because I helped with the project, but that's not all we do to make sure that these children encounter Jesus. So every time a new resident comes into Lutherwood, I sit down with them one-on-one, do a spiritual assessment, figure out what their spiritual needs are, what their spiritual history is. Do they have a church? What does that church mean to them? Well, how connected are they to that church? One of the things that we would like to do is if a child is from, let's just say they're from Boone County, and they say to me, hey, I'm from Boone County, but I don't have a church. Well, you better believe I'm telling them, well, I've got a church you can go to in Boone County. You should go check out our friends over at Advent. They're pretty fantastic, to make sure that they know that there's people that care about them. And so we do assessments. We provide them with Bibles. In fact, Pastor Grady here, I came up a few years ago and grabbed some boxes of Bibles from you. I'm on my last box, by the way. Finally, I am. So, the Bibles that you guys had in your pews, the NIV 84, that's why I came and got them. I was like, oh, these are my kind of people here. So I've been giving those Bibles out to the residents when they've asked for them. Surprisingly, young people, ages about, normally 12 to 17, 18, a lot of them want God's Word. They really do. I go down and read through it with them if they want to. They read through it on their own. They ask me for books to help them. They ask for devotionals to help them. So we really are trying to not just have a beautiful space, but we're trying to really interact with them and figure out what their needs are. What are their prayer requests? So we have spiritual assessments we do, provide them with scriptures. We have weekly chapel services, bi-weekly Bible studies. When they leave, they have the option of having a sending service, which is sort of like a blessing around them, where we kind of come around them and support them and encourage them, again, through God's Word, and sending them out as they leave our facility. So we really do take our Lutheran, identity, our Christian identity very seriously. It's not something that just kind of is like, a name on a wall and we just don't do anything with it. Like, we actually are attempting to connect young people with the gospel so that they can hear about this hope that you and I profess. We want them to also profess this same hope as well. So I'll turn it back over to Sven. You can talk about the sharing place, and we can maybe open up the floor to questions or something.
We could do this for a couple hours here. We have a lot of things to tell, but I already see our pastors kind of thinking, well, I need to do other things here. But I'm, again, want to thank Brady, and I think you all might want to thank him for his 8 years of service. He, as you, of course, see, does a great job, and he will do a great job at his church. I think they got pretty lucky finding him. So again, Brady, thank you so much for everything you have done. There's one thing maybe quick to add. Of course, religious services and all the work that Brady is doing is voluntary on the side of the kids. So it's a little bit similar to housing first, faith first. It's kind of it's really up to our workers and to Brady to engage and get kids there. Of course, the pandemic has not been kind in these situations, because it has been very, very difficult the last 2 years to run the day-to-day operation of what we call congregate care, where lots of people are together, and the virus and so on. But we, with our partner community hospital, we were successful in maintaining as much as possible, but it has been very, very difficult. Our biggest issue that we have right now that I need prayers about is we don't find staff. We could probably today have twice as many kids there if we would have enough staff, and we just don't know where they disappeared to or why are they not coming up, and it's the toughest issue. So do I have 5 more minutes? Something like that, five more minutes. And so one of the programs that you have known about is Sharing Place. So this is one of the other front line issues that Lutheran Child and Family Services is involved with. It's the fight against hunger. So we have a large food pantry, one of the, a little bit more than that shelf there. We are one of the partners of Gleaners. That means we provide services on certain days to cover as much time as possible. And the very unique thing is embedded in a school corporation. So the Sharing Place is actually at the educational headquarters of Lawrence Township Schools. And we are serving thousands of children and families there all the time. This is on a good day, on a good day, the shelves look like this, and we just got a major grant from Gleaners to put up some built-in refrigerator. Built-in, the real thing, not like a lot of the little ones that we have. The other thing is we received a grant from them to have a cooling truck. We have a van right now, but in a day like this, you can pick up frozen pizzas from Gleaners, and they will be fine in the regular vehicle. But I remember years ago when we only had the pickup truck, that was really more difficult. I think we lost one time some pizzas on 465. They they kind of flew off. It was just, so we're a little bit more sophisticated, but the next level is to have that truck and to really work there. Now, before I stop, of course, some of you are already looking and say, oh, when does he really tell us what he really wants from us? That's kind of always that point where people say, nah, we love the stories, but when is he really telling us what he wants? So it's relatively easy. It's relatively easy. Number one, we need your prayers, on all of these programs, because I think we know and we believe deeply, without your prayers, the whole thing is not gonna happening, And that means not only praying about the kids, the young people, but especially these days, the staff. We had that storm the other day. We had 8 or 9 staff staying over. They stayed we had little beds there for them, and because it's 24/7. It's not one of those things, okay, let's go home. And it's real kids there, and so it was a tremendous thing. And so I'm very, very glad to have this staff. So we need a lot of prayers on the staff, on everything we do, on the kids, on good outcomes for everybody. Then we like to get you personally involved. I think always a giant pleasure when I see the pickup truck coming in and wonderful food and supplies and other things, because that keeps us connected, that keeps us connected. And then, of course, we love your support, financial support too, and that has, I think, started to open up a little bit, and I think that's wonderful. And then, of course, we know that some of you or some of your families have been very engaged for many years, and that's very important to us too. But we love to have volunteers. Brady is true. We love people. If that 55+ group ever wants to take a field trip, if that ever in the spring or something, I think it would be a marvelous situation to talk about the chapel windows. Brady can now already do this, so sophisticated, like the best tour guides at Notre Dame in Paris. When they, because they have some windows there, you think, who are these people? I never heard about them. But Brady has really put this together, and I bet you would come back. If there would be a group coming, he would drive over from New Pal. All right, good. Anyway, all right. So, yeah, all right. Okay. Anyway, so that's all we have for today, and maybe there's a few questions, but otherwise, it has been a great pleasure to be here. And next time we come back, or I come back, we can talk about Germany again. But this was good that we didn't talk about Germany this time. Yes. This is kind of a very good question. This is, of course, it's brand new, but young people could stay theoretically 2 or 3 years there. So it's not one of those quick fixes where you say, oh, you have it is permanent supportive housing, And of course, that's, we don't know for how long young people stay. And so we are working on this, but it will be probably some extended time. Yeah, good question. Yes?
Just to follow up on that, does Ando do work helping the residents living there? Does it help them to become more independent?
Yes. Yeah, right. That's a good question. I like that too. So our focus is on number one, housing. Okay, but then looking at some of the issues that have resulted in homelessness. So that could be mental health, that could be substance abuse, and then next step would be, that's what we are now really diving into, is getting a job, keeping a job. And then hopefully with that, people find that little 500 square foot apartment too small for them, and they have a job, and they might want to get into a real apartment, And so these are all the things that we're working on. Yes, very good. Mm-hmm.
But is there still some space or way that they could have a community garden, that project that they could work on together?
Yeah, there is space. There is space for community gardens. But that's maybe I'm not the greatest garden worker. So I have never quite put this on the agenda. And we had sometimes these trials and errors over the years with garden at our IPS, I think our partner, Indianapolis Public Schools. They set up a garden, and then all the teachers left for the for the summer break. And then I want to be realistic with these type of things. I tell you one thing. It would be great if young people learn how to cook. That's, I think, it was kind of interesting when I was there the other day. It looked like everybody is just frying up some piece of meat. That seemed to be the standard thing that was going on there. And so I thought, gosh, there's maybe something else that could be done, maybe with vegetables. But we have the same challenge at Sharing Place. Our clients gravitate towards the easier things to do, and of course I understand it in some ways, because they have a lot of things on their minds, and they are maybe not like me on a Sunday afternoon thinking about some kind of interesting meal. But what we are doing, it's not so much a community garden, but you have a new project that has something that you just received some funding. Oh yeah. Okay, quick, tell us.
Yeah. So the young men in the group home, Trinity House, the 14 to 21-year-old young men that can live there, the staff came to me one day and they said, hey, a couple of or at least one of the boys really has an interest in gardening. Is there some funding that you could find, right? Basically, like, they look at Sven and I like checkbooks. Like, hey, could you find money for this? Could you find money? Well, lo and behold, I had a conversation years ago, like 6 years ago, with Deaconess Dorothy Kranz from the LCMS out of St. Louis. And she had told me in our conversation that, she's got some money that she's looking to give away, but it was very specific. It had to go to gardening. Well, so when I got the information from the staff, like, hey, they were looking for somebody, for funding for gardening, I'm like, well, I actually think I do have an answer for you. I actually can be your checkbook on this one. So we did put together a grant application for them to have a garden. I think theirs is probably more just a generic flower garden as opposed to vegetables, but we thought it was pretty cool that the young men wanted to do some gardening. So they actually have funding to build planter boxes and to do those types of plant flowers and so forth. So there actually is, to your question though, there is a need and an interest among young people to do these types of kind of manual things.
Very good. And there was a question back there. It's not the animal. It's these trees in New Mexico. This is a aspen grove forest, and it's the biggest living organism in the world. There's actually a postal stamp was there many, many years ago. So that's why it's called Pando. Yes? Yeah, do you know, our biggest need is staff that works 24 hours, 7 days a week with our young people. And we call them child specialists. 8 hours a day. Right, yeah, you know, sure. We don't need you to work 24 straight hours. Huh, really, are you sure? Yeah. But it's in shifts. But lately, people have worked doubles. You know, all the things that you read about hospitals and read about nursing facilities and so on. I mean, we have the same issue. And it's relatively straightforward. It's you have to be minimum age 21, have to have a valid Indiana driver's license. We will provide some training. And of course, they have to meet background checks that are pretty intense. And some people think they can do it, and then they find out they cannot. And but that's basically the main thing. But thanks for asking. Yes. Aha. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I'll double check this when I get home. Just a little side note. Sven and I, working together now for 8.5 years, neither of us carry a cell phone. So like I can't just like sit down and like quickly look up on the website for a link to the volunteer sign-up page. I feel pretty strongly that there is a link on our website somewhere to get you in to say, what are the volunteer opportunities? I will tell you right now, the priority from a volunteer perspective is at our food pantry, the sharing place, in Lawrence area. So that would be the first thing. And part of the challenge is volunteering on the campus with the residents requires, as Sven was talking to me about, from a staff perspective, background checks and so forth. We have to do a lot of that too for volunteers. But on the website, I'm feeling pretty confident that there's a link to find on there for volunteer opportunities. What I'll do is I'll check that out later today, and I'll send it up to an email to pastor to say, hey, if folks want to sign up, here's a place to go to see what opportunities are there.
Good question. Some of our churches actually have on a certain day, a little group of people come together. And it's kind of, they really enjoy this as maybe a Holy Cross Day, where some of the volunteers from Holy Cross come together and they kind of get even more engaged with each other. Any other questions? Any other things that you're wondering about? I just really enjoy coming here. Linda, yes? Oh, okay, good question. So this is a question in regards to Lutherwood. So Lutherwood residents are referred to us by the Office of Family and Children Services or maybe probation. So it could be from the Boone County Division of Family Services, could be from Boone County Probation Department up in Lebanon. And since it's a secure facility, for the most part, I tell you a little bit more about it, the young people actually have to have a court order. You cannot just show up there at Lutherwood one day, knock at the door. Sometimes that happened, you know. Somebody says, oh, can we drop off a kid here? You know, we don't know what to do with them anymore. That's not possible. So it has to be through a referral and a court order because of the special nature of our services there. And that was different 1883, where probably the referral came from pastor in those days. You know, that he had a family in the congregation that maybe needed that type of help, and then would write a letter. They didn't call either. No cell phone. I think we are right. No cell phone. They wrote a letter, and I have seen many of these letters. Actually, now we're not talking about Germany, but they were all in German in those early days. You know, from a pastor and saying, you know, we have a family here, and there are 2 boys or something, and they were basically all Lutherans in those days. Now, we basically have no Lutheran children. Is that right? Or maybe once or twice? How many Lutheran kids did you have in all 8.5 years? Not many. 2. You know, so it's not a Lutheran in that way self-help organization how we were 130 years ago. Very good. Thank you. Wow. This was a marvelous morning here with you. Enjoyed the service, and thank you, Pastor, both pastors, for your really support. We have found out over the years, yes, it is great to have people in the congregation that help, but without the pastors, it's not really happening either. So thank you so much. It's a marvelous ministry. We want you to be engaged in it, and maybe we come back sometime in December and talk about Christmas in Germany or something like that.
Let's close in prayer, shall we? Gracious Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this opportunity to share the work that is happening at Lutheran Child and Family Services up here with the good folks at Advent Lutheran in Zionsville. May you continue to bless this congregation as they grow and as they seek to reach out through education. May you continue to bless the partnership with Lutheran Child and Family Services. And may you continue to be glorified in all that we say and we do. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Sven and Brady.